Hi everyone. Welcome to Fixed Focus program. I am Ibrahim Hashemi, and this is the second part of the Fixed Focus program. In this part 1 want to introduce an easy method to make solar dish. In fact, we want to make a solar dish by a pendulum. The sample I prepared earlier was made in the same way. Let's introduce the required supplies. Required supplies include gypsum powder, mirror parts with a thickness of 2 mm, a piece of iron sheet with a diameter of 1 mm and dimensions of 10-5 cm, 2 metal fasteners for the dish, ball joint of car. I choose this sample of work. In order to increase the rotation angle of ball joint, we can shave around the rod and thin it. I used a second-hand ball joint, but there is no looseness on it. And there are 2 holes that we can screw them to the ceiling. Aquarium glue, wallpaper glue, polyester resin, mech catalyst, cobalt accelerator, 2 brushes. You can use metal rods. From threaded rod with a suitable length. Let's go to install the pendulum. We need a suitable ball joint to install the pendulum. I prepared a second-hand ball joint. I removed the dirt rubber. And there should be no looseness on it. Ball joint consists of a metal joint, as you can see in the figure. And most of ball joints have screws that we can attach it to the threaded rod by metal nut. After attaching, then I tighten it. And I screw it to the ceiling. Now, I fixed the ball joint to the ceiling. And it is very important that it has to be tightened. It rotates easily. Now, I take the 10-5 metal plate. And I put it in the groove created in the threaded rod. Now, I weld it. Now, I have welded it. And again, I fasten the rod to the ball joint. It is better to do this with locking pliers. Well, now the metal plate should be cut according to the radius R. We use magic to do this. Now we place the magic vertically at the bottom of the page. Draw a line on the screen by moving the pendulum. This line is the arc of circle. You can do this from both sides. Now, we cut the created line. We also cut the 2 edges of the page.
برش دادیم. حالا
Now we have to sand the cutting part completely. Now my pendulum is ready. I have placed the center of the desk of work in the direction of the pendulum. Well, now I put a plastic on the surface of the work. I prepare a bucket. I pour water into the bucket. Then I add the plaster. After that I stir it well. Now I lean the pendulum on this dish. I pour the plaster in the center of the desk of work. The plaster must be slightly stiffer to form. And again I make plaster and pour it on the previous plaster. Now I move the pendulum to form a plaster. Now the plaster is ready to form firmly. Now I make a small part of a sphere. If you want to make a bigger dish, you have to fill the surrounding space. Because otherwise a lot of plaster is consumed. For example, you can put bricks in the surrounding space. Now the pendulum can move easily. Now the plaster has firmed. As you can see, the larger radius leads that. The surface of the dish looks smooth, and the less radius causes. Curvature of plaster mold becomes more. Well, now I open the pendulum and I do not need it anymore. I clean the surface of the mold with a brush. I made a thin plastic and I put it on the surface of the mold. We want to pour original gypsum on this plastic. Well, I prepared the plaster, and it should be smooth enough. I pour the plaster. I spread it with a spatula. I know many of you do this work more accurately. To increase the strength of gypsum mold, I used metal mesh, and we put the mesh in the gypsum paste, and I cover the mesh with plaster. Well, now let the plaster dry. After an hour later the plaster has firmed well. Now we remove the plastic with the mold. Of course, we do this with caution.
باعث میشه گچ چی بشه.
Metal mesh makes the strong plaster. Now we have part of a geometric sphere. We keep this mold. And we clean the rest of the table. If you want to have mass production, it is better to use cement concrete instead of plaster. Well, I got the original mold. And I cleaned the desk of work.
حالا سطح اینو اگر نگاه کنید کاملا کرویه. ما این سطح
Well, now I cover the mold with a plastic.
یکی از پلاستیکایی که میتونیم استفاده
I
کنیم
think the best and suitable thin plastic is
که به راحتی
cellophane plastic that used in the kitchen.
قرار بدیم.
We put the plastic with the appropriate width on mold. This work should be done carefully because the cellophane is thin. I am making this dish just to produce this movie. So I considered the small dimensions. 1 part 25 centimeters in 25 centimeters. I made a foam. And I have marked the dimensions of 25x25 on it. Now I cut the foam of plastic. And I stick it around the mold. For parts for 4 sides. Glue under the foam. And we stick it.
خب 4 طرف رو ما چسب میزنیم.
Now I made a square.
یه محیط مربع رو درست کردم و
And this is our work environment.
کف سفلونه به گچیچ ارتباط
The floor is made of cellophane and insulated.
گرفته و چیزی رو ازش نشت نمیکنه. ما یه
Now we put the wallpaper glue. Then we pour some of it in a container. Now we spread the glue on the surface with a brush. Of course in the appropriate amount. Method of cutting mirrors has been explained in the first part of fixed focus. But to remind, I cut a piece of mirror.
من آینه رو در این قسمت 2 میل استفاده کردم. 2 میلیمتر 2 سانتی متر استفاده کردم. 2 سانتی متر در 2 سانتی متر. مقدار آینه ها رو
I have already cut the mirrors.
اینجا قبلا برش دادم.
And I have cut them into 2 centimeters in 2 centimeters. And now we put them regularly.
روی چسب کاغذ دیواری که قبلا
in the mold.
خب من همینطور این کارو
Now I have glued the mirrors completely. We clean behind the mirrors.
یک چسب شیشه
I take
استفاده
the tube
می‌کنیم.
of glass glue. Glass adhesive helps to strengthen of the work
و این چسب شیشه
and prevent the
برای
leaking of
عمر
resin under the mirror.
خود دیش بسیار بسیار مهمه و بین درس‌های
Now we
من
cover all the
چسب
seams with glue.
شیشه میزنم و ادامه کار میدم.
Now the step of glass adhesive glass is over.
و درزها رو کلاً گرفتم که رزینی که میریزیم نفوذ نکنه و
It strengthens the life of the dish,
و هم این چسب باعث محکم شدن و عمر طولانی
and it can protect the dish from rain.
حداقل 20 سال میتونه ازش استفاده
A solar dish, which made in this way,
و بارون و خورشید نمیبینه.
can last up to 30 years.
چسب خوش بشه و
Well,
مرحله
now
رزین
let the
تا
glue dry. Now the glue is dry and ready for the step of resin.
و آماده مرحله رزینه.
To do this, we need several fiberglass meshes. I cut them into 25 in 25 size.
25 در 25 بریدم کامل اندازه خودش و رزین رو آماده میکنیم. شما از دو تا بروس
You can use two brushes.
های معمولی نقاشی هست که
If you use an ordinary brush,
رزین میگیرتش و کامل
it will be
پس
disposable.
از این من استفاده نمیکنم.
So I do not use ordinary brush.
بروس هایی هست مخصوص
The second brush is made of silicone, which is used in confectionery. It has a soft material, and the dried resin is easily removed. Well, I prepare a resin solution in a container. You need basic information to prepare fiberglass. That the time of the film does not allow to do this. Now, I put some resin in the container. Be sure to use gloves when working with the resin. Of course, a mask is also required. Well, now we add cobalt. Cobalt should be poured in the appropriate amount. Now I close the top of the container and mix well. Now it is the turn of the catalyst. We add a small amount. Too much of it causes the mold to heat up. Be careful not to mix cobalt and catalyst. Well, now we shake container again. You can see that the color of the resin has completely changed. Now the liquid of resin is ready. We can pour it in another container. Or pour directly on the mesh inside the mold. Now, with a brush, we spread the liquid of resin. Of course, a thin layer of resin. This is a substrate for the original resin. Allow the first layer to dry for about half an hour. We continue the next layers. Well, now the first layer is properly dried and we can continue the next layers. Well, I cleaned the brush and got all the masses. You may want to make bigger dishes. And it depends on your structure. You need to make appropriate connection in the mold of fiberglass. For example, for a curved pipe, you need to fasten the pipe.
زنجیر داره.
Screw the clamp to an existing piece of metal. Of course, I make a normal connection. Dish can be fixed in different degrees with this connection. I put this connection in the center of the mold. And I put the mesh with a small cut on it. Another mesh in the same way. Now we prepare the resin of fiberglass, but with more amount. Now after spreading the resin on the mold, allow the resin to dry completely overnight. It is now about 18 hours and the resin is completely dry. And it is very strong. Now I remove the mold safely. I remove the cellophane plastic from it. I wash the dish. I washed the dish and dried it. I did not remove the foams around it either. And it is ready to be tested in the sun. Well, the mold is ready for making the next dish. Now, we try the dish in the sun. I put a piece of cardboard in the focus of the dish. Of course, the weather is a bit cloudy. Saw performance of dish in front of the sun. If you were careful, you would realize that the focal accuracy of the dish was not accurate. I investigated the reason. I realized that my desk of work was not firm. And when moving the pendulum and forming the plaster, an error occurred. Be careful that the level of the cartoon should be firm. The ball joint should be firmed on the ceiling, as you can see in the figure. The base of ball joint and surface of work must be firmed, till the movement pendulum leads to the correct formation of gypsum. The connection I put behind the dish. Should be fit with the structure used, as you can see in the figure. There are a number of dishes in a row, and adding a number of dishes vertically and horizontally form a big dish. If we make big dishes like this, the wind flows through them. Of course, we can put the dishes together in a different way. The same as this dish, an L clamp is used in it. By a hole in this clamp, we can tie them together. And we can attach them to the structure from the middle of the connection. As you can see in the figure, the focus is connected to the dish, and they move by the movement of the dish. And this connection creates a series of problems. In the next part of the program, Focus Fixed, I want to offer a way
با این کار یک خصوصیت
that the focus is fixed and the dish moves.
اگر که
This work can create an interesting advantage for the dish.
دیش‌های سهموی
You can also visit fixedfocus.ir
مراجعه کنید
to read the article about making a parabolic dish.
دانلود کنید و مطالعه کنید. پس
So goodbye to another program.